I'm here with Dr. Morgan Francis, and we're in her new beautiful office in Scottsdale. And thank you so much for having me today.
Oh, thank you. And thank you so much for the tea. This is like, I feel like this is like coffee talk, even though we're drinking tea.
Yes.
This is really fun. I'm excited to be here.
It's a little bit of a medicine ball for the body and a little medicine ball for our brains.
I know. Yeah, I love that.
So I'm so excited to be speaking with Dr. Morgan Francis today because she is the person who has helped me to learn how to love and accept my body. And I wouldn't be here today, I wouldn't be who I am today without her. So she was so gracious to agree to chat with us. And because it's Valentine's Day, romantic love is wonderful, but the ability to love and accept oneself is what I think is most important. And this is her expertise. So I'm so excited and so happy to have a chance to share some of your knowledge, your experience, and your expertise with my followers. So
well, thank you. And thank you for having me here.
Absolutely.
I love being a witness to your journey of healing and just your metamorphosis. I mean, it's just been so incredible and truly inspiring.
Thank you.
Yeah, so self-love. I mean, this is the week to talk about it,
yes,
right?
And thank you for saying that. And this works. I mean, if I could do it, anyone can.
Yeah, it's true. It does.
Because I was very, very, very hard on myself, even as recently as a year ago. So that's what I'd love to talk about today. We were speaking about that inner critic, and you shared something really beautiful about how you practice kindness to your body. And do you mind sharing that again?
Yeah, so you had asked me, how do you practice body kindness? And so what I said to Mallory is that in order for me to practice body kindness, I have to stop doing things I used to do. So what I used to do is beat myself up after I ate. What I used to do would be restrict my food. What I used to do was compare myself to others from a less than position, would become hyper-focused on calories or what types of foods I'm eating. So limiting my carbs or not eating after a certain time of the day, or making sure I, just did a high intense calorie burning workout. So I would have a deficit in my caloric intake in hopes of losing weight. And I was just tracking everything. So, and I don't grimace in the mirror when I look at myself. I don't weigh myself. So in order to practice body kindness, I stopped doing things. Instead of doing more, I actually did less.
And I just want to let that sink in for a second, because it's just a revolutionary way to approach kindness. I know that I have a to-do list, and what often stops me from doing something that would be good for me is I just don't have the time.
Yes. Yeah.
And how many people say that to us, day in, day out. It's adding that one more thing.
Yeah.
So I actually love that your approach was to stop.
Yeah, and you make a really good point, because research shows that the reasons that we stop doing things in our life is because we feel overwhelmed. That's the number one reason that we stop doing things for ourselves, is because it becomes too much on our plate and we just feel like we can't do it all. So for me, it wasn't about taking more on, it was actually taking things off of my plate. So letting go of the comparison, letting go of wondering and worrying about what I was eating, and taking more of an intuitive approach, and honoring my hunger and going with what I really wanted to eat. And it was just a huge revelation. Actually, just this past weekend, my daughter wanted some brownies, Valentine's Day brownies. And so I made some brownies, and I haven't made brownies since I was in college. Because they were a fear food for me.
Okay.
And so they were like a trigger food where I would binge, or I would just go crazy nuts over them, and I would spiral into this binge. And I had them, and there was no binge. There was no trigger. There was no, I had some, and it was like, I'm good. It was just, there was no attachment to the brownies. And all of a sudden it kind of just stopped in my tracks. Like, I would have never been able to have had this in my kitchen. And now, almost 40 years old, I can, and it's so liberating. It's so freeing, and it gave me just a sense of huge accomplishment of how far I've come.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing
Yeah.
that. And it gives a lot of hope, for me and for people listening, because I know that a year and a half ago, I didn't realize how controlled I was by that self-critic and doing these things, how much time, how much energy that took out of my life. And so hearing that it is possible to completely heal is so encouraging.
Good. Yeah. And back to your point too, research has shown that when we are really just tied to our perfectionism, we actually suffer so much physiologically. So we're more prone to fibromyalgia, more prone to migraines, more prone to depression and anxiety. We are more prone to IBS, fatigue, and those people, any individuals that are perfectionists that have, that are recovering from cancer or heart disease, actually are worse patients. Their recovery takes longer because of their perfectionism. So there are so many just even health beneficial reasons for us to let go of our perfectionism and that inner critic.
That makes so much sense to me. Wow, from a personal standpoint, and with working with clients. I would say the most where a lot of people feel hopeless is in that they're doing everything they're supposed to be doing. They're doing everything the doctor said, and yet they're not healing. And I love hearing the research that you brought in.
Thank you.
So thanks for sharing that.
So,
and I know, like many, we always want that quick fix.
Yes, we sure do.
And we always want that, one magic pill that we need to, take. How did you transform? Were there any tools you can recommend? Any practices that helped you get from where you were to where you are today?
I think the biggest thing was practicing the patience, because we are in a time in our life where we do want a quick fix. We do want instant gratification and reward. And unfortunately with, self-love, it's a journey and it's not linear. So we don't always just see it go like this. There's, there's spikes, there's ups and downs, there's backwards. And so it's when we are in those tough seasons of our life to really move away from beating up on ourselves and move towards the compassion. That to me is where the healing really begins. It's not always just feeling good when things are going well. It's like giving yourself a pat on the back or believing in yourself even when things are not going well. That's when we have to do the real work. So if that means, going back into therapy, if that means, calling your safe friend, if that means like really upping your self-care and social support, because connection and support and being around others that we feel connected to, we know through MRIs, through brain scans, like those people fare better. So for instance, when the World Trade Center, on 9/11 happened, those people that were not around anyone else, they actually suffered much more long-lasting depression and PTSD than those people that had connection to somebody right by them and were able to receive help and support and comfort. So those who received comfort and the support, their MRIs had less activity on the prefrontal cortex than those that didn't.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, it really is fascinating.
Wow.
So truly, I define trauma as a loss of connection to ourselves.
Yeah.
And so the healing is coming back home, or the homecoming to ourselves.
And I know, when people think of trauma, they think of something like 9/11.
Yes.
Can you give us some examples of things that are traumatic and cause that loss of connection that maybe might not be
such a big T?
Yeah,
and sometimes it could just be an argument with a partner or an argument with a friend. It could be feeling like you're left out and experiencing FOMO. It could be something maybe happened to a loved one where it's like a secondary trauma. It may not have affected you, but it affected the person that you come in contact with, and therefore their energy is affecting you. So big traumas, little traumas, they can all affect us. That's why really now, from a diagnostic perspective, we look at PTSD as more complex because it's not just one singular event, it's multiple events.
Which makes sense because we aren't, things that live in a vacuum.
No, exactly.
So,
exactly.
but I know that that's an obstacle that many people face is, well, I didn't go through anything that bad.
Right.
Or.
Right. Because they're always comparing to the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
And I always tell people the pendulum swings both ways. So you may not have had it as bad as Jane over there, but I can guarantee you probably have had it better than Samantha. So we always tend to minimize our trauma, and so really what that says to me is that a person doesn't feel worthy enough to talk about and to deal with their trauma. And so your trauma is worthy to deal with and to heal, just like anyone else's, and just being kind and giving yourself that compassion and that encouragement like you would for a friend.
So helpful. So helpful. Do you have, I remember when you spoke at Powerhouse Women, when I first met you, you had I know I'm putting you on the spot, but you had it was an anagram, or you had some type of...
Like an acronym?
Yes. Could you share that with us?
Yeah. So, part of working through body image, what I like is, trying to come up with something that's an acronym so that we can remember. And so often, we clap for other people, we're always like cheering them on, but we don't take that time, like I was mentioning before, to really clap for ourselves. And so for a way for me that what really helped me was to remember for C to, challenge my negative thoughts. So, really, become aware of how I'm talking to myself and that self-talk. And instead of, diving in and being critical of myself, I would notice the negative talk and then switch it over to how would I talk to a friend. The L is for listening and responding. So listening to our hunger, listening to our satiety, and responding as such. So if I'm hungry, I'm going to eat. I'm not just going to drink water. If I'm full, I'm going to put down my fork and stop eating. I'm not going to keep, continue to eat if my body's saying I've had enough. The A is for appreciation. So appreciating what our bodies do for us, which you're so good at. I love how you always come on and talk about, how much your body's been through and how much you appreciate it because, what happened to you was so tragic, it got taken away from you. And then it's like you appreciate things in a way, in a whole new light that all of us need to be reminded of. And so body appreciation is the A, and then P is actually what I mentioned a moment ago, practice the patience. So, being patient with yourself, knowing that self-love, healing your relationship with your body image, it's a journey. There's no gimmick. There's no product. There's nothing that, it's not one book. It's not one podcast. It's not one personal trainer. It's nothing. It's a pill. It's about, the journey and knowing that it's not short-term. It's actually long-term.
Which I think was a very, trying to think of the word I want to say here. It was like, oh, darn.
I know. A little bit of disappointment. Yes.
But also, the flip side of that is like, oh, okay. Yeah. I don't have to be at that destination of loving myself because it doesn't exist.
There's
an ongoing practice.
Yeah. There's no stop. There's no, it's always, it's an adventure. It's always going to be there for you because things will happen in your life that are not in your control. And so the way that we have to adapt is to focus on what we can control, and that's how we respond. And how we respond is impacted by our thoughts and our feelings.
So good.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm so glad I got to be here and have this nice little coffee talk.
Yes, me too. And we could chat all day.
I know. We could talk about this forever.
I just encourage you to, if you aren't already, follow Dr. Morgan Francis on Instagram.
Thanks.
And I'll tag her in this so that people can find you easily.
Yeah.
And reach out, any questions, any comments you have, or if you want to talk with me personally about my experience with any of this. I'm an open book and happy to support in any way I can. And anything else you want to share before you wrap up?
I think that's it. Just thank you so much for being here, and it's really been just such an honor to be able to talk with you about all this because I've just been so proud and so inspired to see your journey. So it means a lot to me that we get to share this space. And I look forward to connecting with all of you. So I hope to see you on my page because I'm rolling out a special opportunity for us to all stay connected this Friday. So I'm so excited.
I am so excited. She actually told me what it is, and I can't wait.
She swore to secrecy.
I will be the first one in line too. Yes. Okay. Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.